Today, we're going to be discussing in detail how to make your rust repairs completely invisible by tapping down the welds or seams, addressing any high areas, and then filling. One thing to keep in mind before we begin today is that your patch will look like this. On the outside, the seam will be facing up. No moisture will be able to penetrate that because it'll be knocked down, filled, primed, and painted. On the back side, the seam is facing down. Any moisture will run down the panel, go down to the bottom, get trapped down there, or if you allow for drainage, it will drain out. To knock the patch down below the original surface, we're going to use a hammer like this. And we're just going to tap around these welds, making a series of dings all the way through here, so that those welds and that seam is below the original surface. So here we go. And I watch it and I can see it dip, it make a ding as I go along. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it or not. But I can see it go down as I go. And I'll hit it a little bit harder so that maybe you can see it. And I'm hitting really on the sides of those welds. You can hit right on the welds too if you want. If that works better for you. And right here there's a weld. I might have to take that down a little bit with the die grinder. And that should do it for the seam. And now the middle of the patch, I know there's a high spot right here, so we're going to leave that. So when I fill it and start to sand it, you'll be able to see what we do with high areas. Another thing you can do to check for high spots is use a straight edge and just run it along the patch. And as you can see, we have a high area right there. So when we fill this and begin to sand, we're going to run into a high spot right here. And now we'll use a Stanley Sureform or cheese grater blade to knock down some of this filler. And we should run into our high spot right here as we go. Well, we haven't run into it yet. That's good. And I'm going to stop right there, let this harden up a bit, and then we'll hit it with some 40 grit on a rubber block. To block sand our filler, we'll be using a fresh sheet of 40 grit. I repositioned the camera so that you can see the high spot as it starts to appear. And so now we have to stop because the sandpaper can't take that down. So what we're going to do is we're going to just tap it down a little bit right there. And if you don't have that good of aim, you can use a blunt punch. Looks sort of like this. And just whack it down a little bit. Or you can use a hammer. And there's one right there too. And I think we got it. So now we'll mix up some filler, spread that on there, sand it, and then we can continue and finish the job. I cheese grated the area in which we had a high spot. Now we're just going to finish it up with some 40 grit and some 80. And that's it. I'm going to DA this area. We'll throw a coat of primer on it so you can see the finished repair. And now for a couple coats of primer. After a few coats of primer, this is the finished rust repair. I hope you enjoyed this video on knocking down welds, seams, and high spots for a completely invisible repair. If you did, and you'd like to get my latest videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.